We'll call to order. I just want to remind everyone the meeting is being recorded and take a quick roll call. So we have myself, Yana, Jen Betcher, Amy Rando, Sherry Oken, Faith DeFendre, Benny Wheat, and Mayreen. So thanks everyone for being here. It looks like we don't have any member of the public. So we'll go down to approving the minutes. I don't know if anybody had a chance to look over the minutes from last month. Did anyone have any comments or anything to make to the minutes? Any edits?
I had already submitted one when they first came out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I can't remember what it was, but it was something. I know I contacted Benny about it and you, that there was something in there that I thought was not exactly what was said.
Okay.
Close, but not exactly.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. And I just had some minor like typo edits. I think I sent to Benny, like Amy Rando's last name was spelled wrong. There was like something else minor.
Okay. All right. All right. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
All right. And a second?
Yep. Second.
I second.
All right. So taking a roll call vote, Jen?
Aye.
Amy?
Yes. I don't know what I say.
Yeah. Sherry?
Yes.
Faith?
Yeah.
And Benny?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the new member orientation. I looked at the slides. I don't know if, would it be helpful to share my screen so everyone can see the slides while we're talking about them? If people have edits?
Sure.
I'm happy to do that. Okay, hold on just a sec. All right, can everyone see that?
Okay, let's go back to the beginning.
Oh yeah. Probably a good place.
There we go.
So yeah, you guys have done an incredible job. This is, I can't tell you how valuable this is and how valuable this would have been as a new member to have something like this.
Yeah.
It's weird, you know, when you see something for the first time that you're like, oh, why didn't we do this sooner? All right, so does anyone, now looking at the slides, and I can go through, we can go through page by page if that's easier.
Our goal was to have a pretty comprehensive coverage, but to be able to do it in 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So we're still working on the script, which is going to be hard to get it down to 30 minutes. And I know that I am lacking some information. I reached out to Rich Greif, is that how we spell his last name? Greif? Greif.
Yep.
And I haven't heard back. And I reached out to Steve Mayo because I had questions for them as people who were involved in the very beginning. I also reached out to Pina and her email bounced. So I don't know if she has a brand new email address or not. So it didn't get to her. But I'm trying to get more answers to questions because the structure, I will give the credit to Jen for the structure of the slideshow. She put together the physical, then we worked together on fine-tuning it. I put a lot of extra graphics in, and then I told Jen I should, since she did the physical, I should work on the script. But again, I'm so new. There's a lot, and maybe even you, Maria, could help me, but this is something we can do offline.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gathering information.
And Amy has been here since the beginning too, so she might be some of that information. Yeah.
Okay.
So on this one, just on the one slide, I think we were debating between whether it's an onboarding or an orientation. So we probably won't say both onboarding and orientation. I think we just left that there. So I don't know if there's.
There's a difference, and onboarding familiarizes people with not just the facts, but really brings them into the culture of the organization. And like I said, I do this kind of for a living, so I decided it's a hybrid. It's an onboarding orientation. You'll get the facts, but also we hope get the flavor of what it's like to work with this body.
Okay.
All right. So given that, I think it probably makes more sense to have it say onboarding as opposed to orientation.
Well, it's both. Like I said, it's
Oh,
both the cultural side of it and the factual side. So, but if you all think that one word is better than the other, that's why we're looking at these.
Mhm. I'm okay with both, but I'm okay with, you know, if anybody has any commentary on that, we can take that under consideration.
So next slide.
all right.
We try to make them colorful so that people wouldn't fall asleep. And
This just outlines basically the rest of the slides. There's like basically one slide per each of these bullets that'll get into the details of each of these subjects.
And this is some of the stuff that I don't know. I don't know what caused Bob Vincent and company to say we need an HRC. And this is part of what this is. What was it that inspired them to form this body?
Right.
And we know it's
Bill.
5 years, but is it 5 years like 2015 or 5 years 2014? I just want to make sure I have the facts straight.
Yeah, and I can actually, I was looking earlier this week at some of the meeting minutes of the town council and school committee. Town council that was formerly known as the Board of Selectmen. I was looking at the minutes that led to the formation of it, and this was in large part Bill Chetwynd's. It started from him and some of the first people who took part in putting it together. It was Bill Chetwynd, Bob Vincent, Amy, Steve Mayo, Kim Smith, and I can point you to the meeting minutes for both of those organizations, for both of those voting bodies, that will give you a little more insight. I'd be happy to send you the links to those, if that would be helpful.
Yeah, like I didn't know if there was a specific incident, something that precipitated the beginning of the whole thing. So, yep. I mean, and this is for me too. You got to, as we're doing this is my orientation on boarding as a new person. So,
can I just add, these are beautiful. You guys did a great job, but I also, as much as we can have it future oriented, I think that's positive. So like it was 5 years ago, you know, and Maria kind of has the documents, but it was actually Melrose had one. And when Chief Smith came here, he kind of wanted to create one here. And kind of met with those other individuals, but there wasn't, to my knowledge, there wasn't really an incident. It was just, you know, they were popping up in towns all over. But I love this slide. Like I don't, you know, the history is good to have. I don't necessarily know if it needs to be reinstated because it was 5 years ago, 5+ years ago now.
moving on.
Yeah.
And this, I realized when I was reading through the policies and procedures, might be a little bit deceiving because the specialized members, some of them come under the town council and the school committee, or rather the town council. Like I think the clergy member is assigned by the town council, and the school committee assigns the student member. So we have as a separate box here, and I wasn't quite sure how we might be able to reconfigure that so that they can see that it's a special, because the only one here, the police member, is not assigned by the town council or appointed rather by the town council or the school committee. So we might have to do a little work on that to make sure that it's perfectly clear.
Now, I think I had started by putting like 4 general members appointed by of each one. Is that an accurate assessment? And then we still have the specialized members. It's not, I think we'd put in the talking points that the clergy member is appointed by town council. I mean, we could also put them, certainly rearrange this little org chart and put them underneath.
Yeah.
But I think they're still sort of they're not a general member, right? They're just not like a member of the public who applies. They have to be a student or they have to be a clergy member, right? So it's still, to me, it's still specialized. So I just didn't know if we wanted to call the other 2 boxes something other than just members, like general public member, like, I don't know.
Or when we describe this, we can just say who appoints these specialized members.
Right.
So because otherwise it doesn't balance. I thought I would throw the whole thing off if the specialized member box only had one specialized member in it.
Right.
So I left it. So maybe we just leave that to the actual just verbal orientation part.
Yeah, but I think it does I think it's incredibly helpful to show that where kind of each member group falls. And so, yeah, I would leave the 3 specialized members and just explain.
Just explain it verbally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
And then we have the placeholder there. You know, we talked about having a liaison member to the school committee. We would like to have that. I don't know that we officially have one yet. It's a little question mark there, but you know, we can take that off if we don't have one, but I think it's still something
Yeah, I would leave it. My understanding is Colleen Guida is
cool.
going to be the school committee liaison. So yeah, I think we should leave it. I think the intention is to keep having a liaison from the school committee, which I think is a great idea.
And Yana, I might have missed, is it student count? Like what's the official name of your?
Youth council.
Youth council. Okay, so we'll have to change that. Thank you. I was like, that's not right. It's not the student council, but I couldn't remember
No, close enough.
the official name. All right, I'll make a note of that. And then there's a lot more that goes into the talking points of this one, because there's all about our expectations and how we vote and who's, you know, we had, I think, originally like a graphic that had the chair and the vice chair and the treasurer, but we figured we would just talk about the leadership as a talking point versus in the graphic.
Yeah.
And of course, it's all in writing too. So what we're going to be doing is giving people a broad stroke and then encourage them to really read carefully all the policies and procedures notes at their leisure on their own.
Mm-hmm. All right. And I can ask this at the end, but are you both comfortable doing this training? Would you prefer to not do it? I just want to get a sense of around that.
I think Jen and I would be very comfortable doing it together, at least the first time. And then if others would like to do it and change off, that would be the decision of the commission. But okay. I think that Jen and I, we both have done presentations, so we're comfortable doing presentations.
All right. Fantastic. All right.
Okay, these are pretty self-explanatory from the questions.
Mm-hmm.
These are operational issues.
Yep.
And
it would just be something to review.
Yeah, and we certainly want to also, you know, tell them the value and the importance of the open meeting law.
Right. Right. All right.
This has to do with how we get the word out, how we talk between ourselves and with other people in the community. And then, of course, we have the great challenge of working out a better system of how we store all our records and documents than we have now. So it's a work in progress. But it also tells the people who are attending that there's work for them to help us do. It's not like we're a constantly evolving type of group in terms of how we develop operations so we run more strategically.
And I think some of the talking points of this is also, you know, about open meeting law in terms of within our communication and what makes a quorum and how do we communicate legally with each other.
Yeah, that's right. When is it appropriate for two of us to just have a meeting and get together and talk, and we don't have to have it recorded, we don't have to have the public in on it. It's just a working meeting, the kind of subcommittee down in the dirt type of things to get things ready for the larger meetings, working on the direction of the commission, fulfilling responsibilities we've been asked to take care of, like this. Like Jen and I did this together.
Right.
And Jen is not crazy about that graphic, but I think it tells it all. I like it.
No, I liked all the little, you know, because we communicate via email, we communicate on Zoom and computers, we communicate, you know, there's some things that are safety, you know, the lockdown in terms of open meeting and what's public and what's private, but I didn't like the shapes of these
Heads.
So we might be refining some images, but it gets the point across, right? So,
Yeah.
and
I'm
then
not picky about the images. That's a
It's colorful. It might give people a chuckle.
that's true.
Okay. Okay.
And just to answer, well, I am working on the storage place, electronic storage for all of our documents. I emailed IT. Admittedly, I only emailed them a couple days ago, and I haven't heard back from them yet. But when I'm hoping that whether it's a Google Drive or something else, that we can have something to store, 5 years of programs of different events. And I mean, that's kind of the biggest thing. And we're unique in terms of there aren't a whole lot of boards and commissions in town that actually hold events. So we have a lot of documents around that. And yeah, we need a place to keep them. That's a central repository. So, so yes, I will give more updates about that as I have them.
So
Mary,
Jen, I added some graphics here, found some more.
The Wakefield 101. Yeah. So Maureen, this is where it starts being a little more future focused, right? So we talk a little bit like, what have we done so far? What's upcoming? What do we like to do? Like, what are we not doing that we want to do, right? So that could be part of the orientation onboarding, is sort of like, here's sort of our suite of stuff that we've done, but like, you're a new member, you can add to this too, right? Or, here's things that we've got to roll up our sleeves and start doing that's upcoming immediately. And then here's other things that are either on our docket that we're thinking about, or things that, if you want to think about what do you want to add too, right? We are evolving and we can do additional things. And then it gets into, the marketing of our activities, or how do we use volunteers? I know we don't have a really formal process for volunteers, but we can talk about, how volunteers have been used in the past to like help us plan things, help us do tables at different events and things like that. And then also just by bringing events and ideas forward, like running different things at the library, or like video things that we've done. And so then we talk about like, how do we do the things we do? We have a budget, and then we talk a little bit about the getting into the nitty gritty of the reimbursement policy, things like that, just logistics. And then talk about, from all these events and things that we do, we also have physical items, and where do those things go? So again, some of this is very operational, and some of it it's more logistical and things like that.
Yeah, and it's giving an indication of where the openings are for the new people to do things and make their mark on the future.
Right. Absolutely.
And then, again, I went graphic hunting.
Fantastic.
Pictures, pretty pictures of our town, and a nod to Amy and our community health in the department, the safety department, the library, the town hall, the fact that the lake, that's a resource. The natural part of Wakefield is part of what we interact with. It's a resource. And of course, I had to have a little welcome to Wakefield sign in there. The funny thing was, I had nicer pictures, some of us than this, and every single one I had the Baptist church in it.
Oh.
So I didn't put any of those in. It was part of the skyline of every photograph I personally have taken of Wakefield. Very sad. Whether I was on the lake or on the commons, it's in every picture.
Yep.
So this is, this represents the different people that we work with in town. And then these are the things that we're hoping to put together. We already have some. We have that org chart, policy and procedure. We have the open meeting law. You've put together a contact sheet, Maria, for this year. I have a Robert's Rules cheat sheet, so we don't have to have the really strict formal, the past meetings, the agenda. I have, again, for my work, some guidelines for taking minutes appropriately and legally, and so on. And one of the things we thought was also very important, that we don't have an archivist. We don't have someone who really keeps our history. And as part of this, we think that that's something that each year, and it's an ongoing position, but each year or a couple of years, we should make sure that we have a person assigned that maintains the history, because you lose too much if you let it go for too long.
Right.
So these are the kinds of things that we hope to have available to people. And some we already have.
Great.
And
yeah,
then
the part with the photos really stands out to me, because we've had tons of photos taken at so many of our events, and we don't have them all in a central place, and it really would be so invaluable.
Yeah.
To have those to collect.
And most websites have slideshow features, but I guess ours doesn't. And then we thought the last slide should be the opens discussion.
Yeah.
What do you think? What are your questions? And so we found this graphic, someone considering their thoughts and also had questions, and we thought that this would be a good concluding slide.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the slideshow.
Thank you so much. It looks amazing. Does anyone have any feedback right now? And obviously this will still be an ongoing thing. And Sherry, you and I can talk about filling in some of the information that you're missing. And I think, some of the previous members would also be helpful. Amy, if you don't mind, if I can volunteer you.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks.
Can I just say that it looks amazing? I love that. The two points that I would I don't know if you change the slides or just talk about, is I'd love for you guys to remind people that they have to get sworn in and do the ethics training. And that wasn't there anywhere, but before.
It's in the talking points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's
perfect.
in one of the ones about, like, I forget which one it is, but
It's one of the early ones.
yeah. How are we appointed? What are our responsibilities?
Yes.
When you become an HRC, it definitely has the ethics, because I just got my 2-year reminder that I have to retake it. So
Yes. Yes. And then the other thing that I was thinking, and this might be another slide or on that, who we work with in town, but over the last 5 years, you guys have actually worked with people outside of town also. So we've done some joint events with Melrose. And then nowhere on the slide mentioned the Association of healthcare. Human Rights Commission. Sorry, that meeting, Maria.
The Mass Human Rights.
Because I will tell this presentation's so great, and I got asked by 2 other towns this week how we created the HRC, and so I kind of was like, oh, this is a longer conversation, and but I sent them to that organization because I was like, they should have the history. But I think talking about that, and I'm trying to think if there's any other statewide, like
we've done some stuff with Jason Lewis and
the group that does the mascot stuff. Like, didn't we join that? So I think just talking about some of the regional stuff that we've done is good to talk about too.
Mm-hmm.
And then
great point.
I don't know where it goes in there, and this is the picture stuff, but like the picture of the Civic Center with the pride flag needs to be like front and center.
Yeah.
Because it was such a great.
And I didn't have that picture, and we did not have a graphic for Pride. And that's the other thing. As you all have a set of these because they went out with the minutes. If you have alternative graphics that will work even better and give even a clearer understanding of what we do and who we interact with, please send it my way and we'll put it in there. These are the placeholders until we have the perfect things.
Yeah.
It looks amazing.
Yeah. I think I can pull a picture of the pride flag, even though I don't have it myself. I think it's on our Facebook page, so I could probably pull it from there. But yeah, this is where like a central repository of pictures would be great to go back to.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I can reach out to David Watts because I think that he probably has, he's been our photographer. He was one of the original members of HRC. I can reach out to him and see what he has, but we also have other people that have helped photograph various events. So, and I am still working through that kind of HRC history project. And as I find more collaborations like the ones that we've just talked about, as I find them, I can send them along to you, Sherry or Jen, to add in for either the talking points or the slides.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about orienting somebody else, I mean, are we going to go by, are we going to spend, if it's only a half hour, like, are we going to talk about every single thing? Probably not. I do think it's appropriate to add regional alliances and things that we've done. Absolutely. But, you know, even that like sampling of pictures, I think adding the pride flag we should do that too. But we're not going to add like a picture from every single event we've ever had, right? So it's just representative. Just so they kind of get up to speed on what we've done and what we're doing and what we'll have planned for the next year or potentially, you know, or beyond. So,
and actually, the picture I have from International Women's Day, we had a different one before that didn't have the logo in the back and the pink. That was on Google Images. It actually showed up on Google Images. So I was able to pull it right off of there.
Interesting.
Oh, wow. And Wakefield 101, I had, because I used to do, for 17 years, I did the newsletter and the website for the Friends of the BB Library. So I had all those kinds of graphics. I still have all of them, because every once in a while someone says, do you have? And I said, yeah, of course I have. Because no one has told me where else to put them, so I have them.
So if I mean, as we go through, I think if we need to separate slides out, if we have too much content for a slide of each topic, I mean, I think to your point, Maureen, you didn't see some things in there. It was in the sort of in the bullets, but you don't see that right now with the graphics. So we'll have to see if there's, if it's worth breaking things out, if we want to, you know, talk about like, who do we work with in town, and then a separate slide for who do we work with outside of, or is it just who do we work with? And then we add in other logos or pictures of other statewide things. So
the thing that's important is that the slides can be pretty consistent. The script can evolve and change, and we will rehearse like crazy to make sure we stay within the time limits. So as the group changes, you know, the focus on some of the slides might change a bit, but we have to get sort of a base point now. And I have right now several pages of text to go along with that. And Jen was away for a little bit, and so she and I will meet again and we'll go over what I've written and fine tune it. And of course, we've got to gather more information, because as I was doing it, I realized how much I didn't know still. So we're all learning, which is good.
Something to talk about for this next group of people coming in, you know, is it something we do all as a meeting like this, or is it something we do more one-on-one, or, you know, obviously right now it won't be one-on-one, it'll be 1-on-5 or 4 or whatever. But, you know, is it, I don't know if it's, I don't want to waste existing commissioners' time reviewing the onboarding, like at the first meeting where people come in all the time. So I think it's something we could just do kind of casually. You know, once we can meet in person again, we could meet with people or do on a phone call or Zoom call separately, just to kind of give them the orientation either before their first meeting or right after their first meeting or something like that, once people are appointed. Because I think that's something else, you know, when people are appointed, we don't really have a good process either for letting people know. Like if they watch the town council meeting or the school committee meeting that says that they were appointed, and then hopefully they get an email from that body saying congratulations, but we don't have like a welcoming, like a standard script, you know. And I think maybe Rich should put something together for Sherry. I think you said you got a welcome email, but it was just Rich wrote it himself and sent it off, right? But we don't really have like something that would say, welcome new member, like here's the orientation, we'll schedule a meeting with you, and here's the links to all the things that are in the resources, which we'll review with you during your orientation and onboarding. So that might be a supplemental type of thing we put together, like an email template, like a welcome email.
And we keep it with our other documents, so we always have it.
Yeah.
I'm sensing a theme here. We need a central.
We need the central place.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I will. Okay.
So we will keep working on this, and I might have a situation that I might be a little bit out of reach for a little bit. Jen knows what it's about, and I'll tell you what it's about. But we'll keep working on it as best we can with the goal of trying to get a script to you all to read before the next meeting.
Okay. That's great. Thank you. Thank you. That was a tremendous amount of work. So thank you both so much for this. All right. Okay, so moving down to our next agenda item, some updates around our anti-racism action items. Sherry, I know you sent me a brief email. Do you want to just give us like a, either you or Yana want to give us a quick update about the posters?
Well, I went to Yana's house and I took pictures, and I ended up taking her posters home with me and having my professional photographer husband, who has a vacuum device that takes every wrinkle and curl out of a document in order to take pictures. So I photographed them again. And now I still have to crop them and put all the words on them. So that's where we stand with those.
Okay.
And those should be cropped by next week. They should be ready and by next week. My question though is, Yana, do you want your signature on there, or just I should just write your name? Because we couldn't have your actual signature like a real artist.
I don't have a huge opinion on that. I'm good with either.
Okay, well then I'll put in some kind of sort of contemporary script writing your name then on the bottom.
Okay.
Okay. So it will look like it's a signature. But you should develop one. Professional artists all have certain distinctive signatures.
I actually do have one. I love it.
Okay.
And that's what I do like in class when I'm bored. I just repeat it. I love it.
Okay, so I'm sorry I don't have those for you today, but
That's okay.
It took 2 tries to get them photographed properly.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd rather get them right and get them looking as good and as professional as we can. So thanks. And I still need to reach out to the town about putting them in the kiosks, but I should be able to do that, and we'll have an update at the next meeting about that. Okay, anything else about posters?
The libraries would be extremely happy to post them. I even talked to them about, I know you're not open now, but how about at the Avon Street entrance?
Mm-hmm.
They talked about, they have that, what do you call that thing that's at the front of the library that they put some kinds of letters and displays in? Okay, but it's not quite big enough. If we could conceivably, if we wanted to do this, take it to Staples and blow it up bigger, and they would even put some of them in there.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So the libraries would be, and of course they also said, town kiosk, definitely. I said, yeah, that we've thought of that one.
Yeah. Oh, good. Great. All right. So moving down to the next one, Faith, do you want to give us an update on the Black Student Union?
Sure. Okay, so basically we were all up and ready to plan something, and then my principal reached out and said we actually can't plan any events under the Black Student Union. So because of COVID and everything and all that, so because of that, we instead have to just like group up a couple of students, which we've been doing in the first place. So it's no longer going to be something under the Black Student Union, but just Wakefield High school students and everything. So that's the first part of that. The second part is we're planning for a Zoom meeting in the next week or so. So if anybody wants to be a part of that meeting, I can just email you guys to talk about it. We're definitely thinking for a glow light, as we thought before, but it might have to end up being something virtual, which I still feel like we'll have a big presence if we get as much exposure to it and everything. How does anyone feel about that?
I have a question. Can you share more detail about why you couldn't plan an event under the Black Student Union?
Oh, okay. So apparently, unless it's only students or something about it only being the people from our school, or that we can't do that, I don't know what my principal was trying to say about that, but that part is, you can reach out to Miss McLeod if anything, but she said that we can't do that under the student name. One, because COVID, we're not even allowed to like gather in groups for clubs or anything, and so that's technically a club at our school. And two, because I don't know, but we had the same problem when we were planning the march. We couldn't like say too much about it being part of the Black Student Union for like reasons that there might be, say, an issue or something like that. They don't want it to be under the school.
So the students of the student union could do something, but they can't bring in people who are not in the student union.
Yeah, so because of that, we're instead not calling it something under the Black Student Union. Instead, it's going to be a collective of the whole high school students outside school.
Okay. I would love to participate in the Zoom meeting if you want to.
Of course.
Let me know. Depending on what you guys plan, keep me updated, and I can keep the rest of the group updated. Because if there's something that we can help you amplify, whether it's a virtual protest or anything around that, I'm happy to share that with the rest of the group.
And what are your thoughts right now about whether it would be an in-person event or a Zoom event? The thing you're planning.
So me and like the rest of the students, we really want it to be an in-person thing, because I feel like that has the biggest effects. Because when you're in person, you just, I don't know, you feel the vibe of everybody else and everybody else is moved by it. So we really want it to be an in-person thing so people can like be together. But it, depending on what type of thing, like, because we have to get okays from certain people, we might actually have to have it be a Zoom meeting, but I'm really, really, really hoping for it to be an in-person thing. Like really hoping.
What do you think would tip the scales? Like if you have to get approvals from people, are there things that would like be helpful in getting those approvals?
Okay, hold on, because we talked about this at our last meeting. I'm pretty sure it's just about containing a certain amount of people. At first, it was with the whole candlelight thing, but we don't have to worry about that anymore because we decided on the blow light. But now it's like containing a certain amount of people in a public space. How do we make sure that we don't end up with a bunch of people, even though I don't think that's super like likely at all? Is how do we make sure it stays under an amount of people? That type of thing.
So you couldn't even have like an event that had a grid where people were separated and each person stood in the middle of their part of the grid with their glow light?
I think that would be perfect because a while back, we actually had measured the fields at the high school, and like we measured for how many people could fit there, and it would be about like 200 or so. But their thing is, how do we make sure more than 200 don't come? Like I think that would be perfect.
Yeah.
So it's basically on that.
And I was just thinking of some of the parks I've seen in parts of the country that have these circles where people are spaced apart and they can stay within their circle. But I can understand the school's concern.
Probably more than 200 people showed up to the march, right?
Oh yeah.
It was like 800 people or something.
800.
That was my guesstimate. I counted like how many people I could see, and then yeah, 800. That's what I said, Maureen. 800.
It was 400.
400.
I was close.
400.
For 800 legs and arms or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
But so, I mean, I get it. You know, it's, you know, considering that turnout, it could be a real concern that more people would show up than would fit on the field.
Exactly.
But I wonder, I don't know, there's more than one field too. Like there's the, I don't know what they're all called, but there's the one that's right behind the field house, and there's the other one that's like
up the street a little
yeah,
bit.
like across a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's the Votex field.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, the one right up the hill is Landrigan Fields. there's 2 football fields that the high school owns. One directly behind the high school, and then the one up the hill on the right is Landrigan, and that's also owned by the high school. One thought that before a couple weeks before the march, when there was some community members had contacted me about planning something, people had different suggestions of different types of protests to keep people safe in the pandemic, but while also still voicing it. And one person suggested everyone do something on their own front lawn at the same time. And I recognize it doesn't capture that solidarity that everyone felt at the march. But it could be like, I'm just kind of, I don't know, if someone were driving around filming it, that they could see the number of people that came out in solidarity throughout the community, that might be a starting point for something. I don't.
That very well could be something.
Yeah.
Even like walking out and seeing your neighbors doing something, I feel like that could put together feeling of wholeness and everything. But
well, yeah, let me, and if anybody else wants to participate in the Zoom meeting, or I'm happy to do it. But yeah, keep me posted about the Zoom meeting. I'd be happy to be there.
well,
Thanks. Okay, Yana, do you want to give us an update on the Youth Council?
Yeah, sure. So last Wednesday, my friend and I did a presentation about the pros and cons about the Wakefield Royal logo. And next meeting, we plan to further discuss the issue and to come to an agreement of like which side the Youth Council supports. That's so far. So yeah.
That's great.
Tell us more about the presentation. What were you presenting? Like, what?
So, we did like the history of the Wake, like how it formed and all that, and the history of what like the town has with Native Americans and how it affects Native Americans, and both like different like arguments that people have, or like things that they will like say about like getting rid of it, or like, for example, like some people might say it's just a logo, so then we had to remain like on both sides, like why, like we have to agree with that side, and then we have to agree with like why we should get rid of it, if that makes sense. Like
It's called switch side debating.
yeah, exactly. So then people could see both sides to see which side they support, and then in the end we'll take an overall vote, and then I guess like the majority or something like that. I'll see how it goes next meeting.
Great. I will say that a number of people have reached out to us through the WHRC email address to say that they want to be part of this conversation too. There was a group of neighbors who got in touch with me, and one of them said that she said this really needs to be a grassroots effort. She didn't think it was appropriate coming from a government body, and I totally, I mean, and she was talking more about the HRC, not in terms of the Youth Council. So I think because there's a lot of disconnected but very interested people. So I think what I can do is send an email to connect everyone, including with the Youth Council, and so everyone can know who everyone is, and so that you can all have a conversation around this, if that would be helpful.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
So you're saying that there is no movement from the top, like town government or council, on this issue at all?
No, because it's a school department. I mean, it's a school committee decision. So it seems the consensus, and I agree with this, is that this needs to come from both the current students who are at the high school right now and the general community. And the general community does seem to be increasingly interested in changing the mascot. At least I haven't heard from anyone in opposition to it. I've only heard from people who want to change it. And I'm happy to put everyone, regardless of which side they fall on, I'm happy to put everyone in connection with each other. But at least from what I've received, the communication that I've received thus far, it's only been from people who want to change it. But I do agree with that community member who said that they really feel like this should be a grassroots effort, and not something that's being led from the top down, but from the bottom up. And I do agree with that. And I certainly am not interested in stymieing any of the conversation. I want it, but I think we can be a supporter without kind of leading the charge on this.
Maureen, is this something that might be brought up during town meeting? No, as a general discussion for community?
It's a school committee decision.
Okay.
It needs to be brought up in school committee and to school committee is
Yeah,
my understanding. So I think I equate it to, I think even before, I think it was the year I moved here. So maybe 7 or 8 years ago, at graduation, they used to wear gendered robes. So the girls wore one color and the boys wore another color. And the students actually were the ones that said, yeah, we don't like gendered robes. We want to all wear one color. And it came from the students. And so I think that I've always been told it's a school committee discussion. And to echo everything Maria said, and the school committee right now, they're one person short because somebody resigned. And they are also, when does school starts, tomorrow or Thursday? I'm looking at Thursday. Yeah. So they've just been a little, Faith and Yana, you look so excited. So they've just been a little overwhelmed, but I think the youth council is the right place for it to be discussed. And I think if people come to the HRC or individuals on the HRC, the redirect is to send them to school committee.
I was just thinking of people like myself. I have no children in school. And so I don't seem to have, but I'm a member of the community, and this is representative of our community, but I'm not included in the discussion because I have no children in the schools.
Yeah, you elect the school committee, so you can write them a letter. I mean, they're an elected body. There's members on the school committee who don't have kids in the school system, so they answer to all of us. So you could reach out to them.
Okay.
And just to add on to something that you said, Maureen, Benny, I'm going to quote you because I was watching the youth council meeting that you appeared at. I agree that this is a long game because I think there's a lot of education to be done around this, and that's on us, not as the Human Rights Commission, but as the community of Wakefield, to learn more about this and why the Youth Council has done a fantastic job so far in educating themselves, and it seems like planning to share some of that education around the meaning behind the mascot and the history and why they're trying to change it. So yeah, I think they're on a good path. Okay. All right, anything else about the Youth Council update?
No, that's all that we have so far.
Thank you. All right. The library collaboration.
Well, the library got a wonderful grant. In fact, they sent me a copy of their original proposal. It's a Civic Hub Grant. And in order to get this grant, they had to pretty much develop the program that was going to use the money. And so much, I was hoping that maybe we could play a role in this, and we still might. But the grant is will fund a multi-part program over the course of the year that's entitled to Commit to Your Community. Okay. And there are 3 segments of it. The first part is it's called Get Involved. So it's sort of like a virtual Wakefield 101. The second part is Act with Compassion. And the core message is everyone is exactly like you. We're all human beings. And the third part is advocate for change. But the change they're talking about here is climate change. They're all going to have keynote speakers, and the Act with Compassion and Advocate for Change are also going to have panels, and they'll involve the library's book groups. The speakers have been booked, and most of the books have been chosen, but they might need some help in identifying panelists. So I've asked them to please come to us if there's anything we might be able to assist them with in terms of identifying some people that might fill out their panels and be the appropriate people to speak on those topics. So I was really hoping that we were there, we would be get more into the formation of it and could help with choosing books. But some of the books that they're choosing are ones that are really very relevant to our issues anyway. So we can get involved with helping promote the programs and certainly attending the programs and supporting them. So that's all I know for now. Like I said, Jackie, I met with both Catherine and Jackie, both of them. They were really nice, both of them, to meet with me. And I have a copy of this document, and I can share it with all of you as well. I just got it today. So I can share it with all of you so you can see the details of their grant and some of the speakers they've chosen. And maybe you'll have better ideas of where we can possibly help with them. But they want to work with us. Just with this, it's so far along already and so developed already. I'm not sure exactly what we will be doing with them. And of course, nothing is live right now. So,
right. Did you get a sense from, and I know you just got it today, but is it around one theme, or are there multiple themes? What are the issues that are being discussed?
The unifying theme is commit to your community.
Okay.
And like I said, the first part was get involved, so familiarize people with just like Wakefield 101, the different things that go on in the community. Act with Compassion is really the human element of committing to your community, and Advocate for Change is for, I guess, the environmental and the physical element of committing to your community. That's the way I interpret it. So, but I will say, and they will start with the get involved. And they right now have planned a keynote lecture, 2 book discussions, and a directory of groups and organizations created by staff that they're going to hand out. In the early winter, they're going to shift to the Act with Compassion. It's going to be about understanding and empathy building. And it says here, in partnership with the Human Rights Commission and the Wakefield Unified Prevention, we will invite Ryan Dow, creator of the Librarian's Guide to Homelessness, to speak about homelessness in Massachusetts. They're going to have a panel with social workers, support personnel, people who work with the homeless community. Benny, you work with the homeless community, I believe. So you might be the perfect person to work with them on that aspect of it. And then in the spring, they are going to move to Advocate for Change, and that is about our physical environment, climate change. And they're going to have a climate change activist, a doctor, who's a member of the Greater Boston Physicians for Social Responsibility. They're hoping to do this in partnership with Sustainable Wakefield and the Environmental Sustainability Committee. And they're going to have a fiction title book on this one. They shouldn't use, well, maybe they'll use the understory, but boy, that is a tough book. I don't know how many people will get through the whole book. So like I said, it looks like the first 2 parts are more the ones we might get involved with, the get involved and then the Act with Compassion, because they mention us directly. But they're so good at doing their own planning and identifying their own resources that they're already so far advanced with this. But there will be room for us. I just don't know in what capacity.
Great. Does anybody have?
They're terrific. They're absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, we've had great experiences collaborating with them in the past.
And they do we're really interested in the artwork done by Yana and having that on display in some way, whatever's possible.
Okay, for the next one, the active bystander training with Quabbin mediation. So I spoke with someone Beryl Domingo at this program, the Active Bystander Training. And she gave me a ton of information, which was really, really helpful. So they started doing this training a number of years ago, and they started just in the schools. For any interested schools, they started in Central Massachusetts, but they now work statewide, training high schoolers who then would train middle schoolers in terms of active bystander training. So intervening in a situation where they see someone being targeted, either through bullying or a hate crime, something where there's an intervention is necessary. And she said, so often people they're paralyzed. They don't know how to intervene. They don't know how to step in. And so they started doing this, and it's a nonviolent approach. And the focus is protecting the person being harmed and not to focus on the person causing the harm. And so after doing this for several years with school programs, there was more community interest in training general members of the community to do the same kind of training. So they've been doing that training for about 4 years. Since COVID, it took them maybe a matter of just a couple months, and they now have it available virtual. It's a 2-hour training over Zoom. They can accommodate up to 20 people in a training. And they've had good responses from people who have done the Zoom training. Right now, they have 7 trainings lined up over the next, between now, since mid-July, they have had 7 trainings booked. So they've been definitely busy and have gotten good feedback. And I reached out. I know the city of Somerville has them booked for a training coming up soon. They were going to do an in-person, but they had to reschedule. And for a 2 to 2.5 hour training, once that's done, their goal is to try and move towards training the trainers. So they would do a basic training, and then if people are interested, depending on how big a group, then there's the potential of doing a train the trainer session, so that we kind of spread the information throughout the community through members of our own community. But at least to start, the training, the 2-hour initial training would be $400. And again, that's up to 20 people in one session. She said in the past for towns, she would recommend 1, possibly 2 trainings if it seems like when you advertise, if there's a huge swell of interest, maybe doing 2. She didn't recommend doing more. I think there was one town that did 3, and I think maybe only 2 or 3 people actually ended up showing up at the 3rd training. And it's not something that you would need to do all 3 trainings. It's you offer 1 or 2 trainings, and people go to just one of those. So it seemed like a great program and a great, really active, to use the word active again, way to, in terms of trying to further our goals around anti-racism. So I wanted to see if people had questions or what kind of feedback or thoughts people had on that.
How does one get invited to attend one of these?
So what we would do, the process, if we wanted to do it, we would need to take a vote on it. And then I would get in touch with her, and we would book a date and publicize it. And then people could sign up either through our webpage or I'm not sure exactly of the logistics, but they would sign up after we advertised it.
I have a question, because Amy, I think you did the police department did like a self-defense thing. And so I don't know how you managed signups for that, but I was wondering if maybe the Wakefield Rec, so I know they do sometimes partnerships with outside groups, but they might be able to handle the sign up part for us if we wanted to think about that.
So when we do the self-defense class, we just have one of the officers, we list an email on the flyer and they sign up through us. And then if it gets to be over the limit that we can hold class, and we start a wait list, and if someone backs out, we'll let in if we have some. So I don't think it was the Human Rights Commission, but I want to say the Wakefield Alliance Against Violence actually had an active bystander training with the same organization. I couldn't remember if it was Human Rights or WAVE, but they had done this before within the last, maybe it was 4 or 5 years ago. And I wasn't able to attend, but I heard really good feedback about it. And so I definitely think it's something worth pursuing with this group, or even, I mean, 4 years later, I don't think there was a very large attendance then, but I think it's something that we should pursue. I think it's a good idea. So.
I think there would be a greater attendance now because people are so worried about confrontations and how they can escalate.
I have a question. Do you know, so you mentioned, active bystander, I mean, intervening in a situation as a bystander, that could be a bullying, that could be an incident of like racist targeting and things like that. Do you know like what their focus is? Because I think that in intervening in a racist incident, there's like additional layers of stuff that need to get like talked about and explored in a training, and I wonder if they cover that stuff.
That's a great question. I can certainly find that out. And I can get back to you. I know that I'm trying to think, just looking through my notes. Yeah, I don't have anything in my notes specific to that, but if you would feel, I think that's an important question to answer. So if you would feel more comfortable with me circling back to her and finding that out and tabling this and maybe taking a vote on it next month, I can do that.
Well, I mean, I guess the question is, what's the goal for bringing the training? Like, are we thinking about it as a, like an aspect of our anti-racism actions? Because if so, I think it is important to be clear about that piece. Mm-hmm. If it's general bystander training that's not necessarily focused on intervening in racist incidents, then maybe it's less important. So maybe, yeah, I guess the question is for us internally, like, what's the goal?
And for the monetary side of it, would that be something that we would provide free of charge for people who sign up, or would that be, we would just pass on the cost and say it's $20 per person to sign up? We want 20 people.
I think in terms of the finances, I mean, the fact that we got that grant from Greenwood Wine and Spirits, and the statement in the letter was towards building a stronger community. I can't remember the exact words, but I would feel very comfortable using some of that donation for that and having people be able to participate for free.
Okay.
But yeah, Benny, to get back to your question, I don't know, what do people think in terms of, yeah, if the goal, when I reached out to her, my thinking was that this was directed towards an anti-racism agenda, that part of our actions that we would take around that. So, but if people are thinking of it in a broader sense of bystanders in any kind of situation where someone needs some sort of intervention or protection from being harmed. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not not articulating it very well, but what do people think in terms of those goals?
I think this is problematic because there's so many different aspects of human rights that we might address. Mm-hmm. So are we saying that with we're going to concentrate on one theme or one aspect of human rights over another? Or are we going to try to address it in a general sense, in a way that can be applied, training that could be applied in all different human rights violation situations? And we don't have like a year-long theme or focus. We move in and out of different things.
Amy, was the one that Wave did, was that more focused on like intervening in domestic violence situations, or was it more broad?
I want to say it was focused around, I don't want to say there, so I didn't attend it, but I had questions because I wanted to make sure, you know, is this going to put people in harm's way? So I said, you know, I would inquire, obviously, do they try on intervening in a safe manner? Because obviously if there's a physical alternate, from what I understand, if there was a scenario, you know, female on a subway, you know, by yourself down the end of the car, and then you're with a group of your own friends, and there's, you know, another party harassing that one female. It was more you just kind of moved in, engaged in conversation with that female, so that party no longer felt they were alone, would be an easy target. So like I knew that was like one scenario they kind of had talked about. And so I don't know if now with people's interests, if they are focusing it more, so I feel like back then it was a broader focus. So it could have been bullying, someone being the target of anyone's hate, no matter what it was. I don't think it was just focused on racism. So, but again, maybe if you ask them, could you tweak the program? They might be able to do that. But I thought it was more all encompassing, and it wasn't solely for domestic violence when they did it. It was a training geared towards multiple types of people you could help. That's my understanding. And again, I didn't attend it. I wasn't able to attend it. But I got good feedback from the group members who did go. So, but I'm sure you could inquire and they could let you know what, if there's a focal point or if they're only covering one, you know, group or one type of target, you know, so.
And I would imagine it would apply for anti-LGBTQ rhetoric if you're hearing that. How do you step in, or anti-Semitic, or any sort of other kind of...
if anyone's, you know, targeting someone, bullying them or harassing them because of their age, their gender, you know, sexuality, I mean, any of that, I would think that it covers all of that. But
yeah, even making fun of someone who has a visible disability.
Yep. I think it's still something to pursue, even if it covers other areas too. But
I guess one thing I'm thinking about when I brought this up is there are ways, I think, in which, especially with a predominantly white audience, there are ways that I think it's important to be aware of and name and deal with, like, aspects of whiteness in when you're talking about intervening in a racist incident. For example, like saviorism or like things like that. Oh, bye. And sort of being aware of and like not only helping people to build the skills of intervening, but also to build the self-awareness of like, am I doing harm in like how I'm engaging in this situation? So, and I think that comes up in many different, like if you were intervening in different types of situations, but I just think that there are like additionally complicated layers to it when we're talking, especially about, and it won't always be like a white person trying to save a black person or something, but I don't know. So that's like a thing that's on my mind, that it's like there can be some sort of unintended consequences that I think would be great to be a part of the training to help people like navigate that stuff. So that would be like, I think, really super great if there was like intention and awareness around that, like those dynamics, especially if the goal is to do this as an anti-racist intervention. So that's why I brought it up, and that's like some of the jumble of thoughts that I'm having on this.
No, I think I respect your jumble of thoughts. I think that those are important things to definitely keep in mind. And yeah. So I'm just wondering if it would make more sense to hold off on voting for this, to voting on this until next month's meeting, so we can get some more clarity around that. And if it turns out that it's not quite as focused, then maybe not, maybe looking at couching it in some of the with some of the issues that you raised, Benny. Whether it's, if they can't do it, then either someone from our group or from outside our group to talk about some of the considerations about what it means when a white person intervenes, when a Black person is being targeted, and how to go about doing that without having a savior complex or white savior complex, and just making sure that we understand kind of what it means to intervene. Does anyone, does that make sense to hold off until next month on that?
Because I still don't have a sense of what this group is looking for, whether it's strictly an anti-racism project or a more general protect people from harm, intervening in any situation in which, as using Amy's word, that we see a hateful situation and a harmful situation.
Amy and I have our WAVE meeting tomorrow morning. And so we can actually, because I don't remember that training through WAVE either, Amy. It might have just been right before I kind of joined. And so we can kind of ask the leadership about it and what that training looked like, since it's the same organization. And then Maria, maybe you can follow up with the group. It's funny. So my sister does this training for a living. It's like what she's getting her PhD in. And we had an interesting conversation yesterday that she was very aware that groups are jumping and training on anti-racist work without doing the building blocks of what implicit bias is and what DE&I is, and that that it's not being done well, right? Because you can't teach people about that when you're not actually talking about implicit bias and what hate is, and what ends up happening, right, is that you're forcing people to go to these trainings, although ours wouldn't be forced, but in situations you're forcing people to go, and right off the bat, you know, if the bottom line is we are all inherently racist, which, you know, is what we are saying in some sort of the new kind of literature academia, is we are all inherently, like, we have to actively be anti-racist. It's not a good stepping stone. And so I think for us to be aware of any sort of training that we do, like, it can't right off the bat just be, hey, we want to talk about anti-racism work and white fragility and, you know, white savior complex, but have those building blocks. And, you know, Jen also works on this, and I just, you know, as someone who doesn't work in the field, but like, it struck a chord with me, because I think there's a lot of like talking down to people without getting them, like, bringing them along. And I think you guys have a great opportunity, you guys being the HRC, of actually educating and bringing people along. So,
and people have to be out there. And people have to be willing. I'm thinking about, we had the alumni group of our conversations about whiteness meeting on Thursday, and we were willing. We wanted to talk about white privilege, white fragility. We wanted to understand that. But if you're not willing in the beginning, all you become is really resistant and defiant, and you don't believe it could possibly, that's not me. That's not me you're talking about. And so you're starting from a negative. You're right. You have, there's a lot more preparation that has to be done first.
And I have no doubt that this group and like groups that have done this for a long time can do it. I just like want to be mindful of what our expectations are. And I think it's important. Like, I think we got community money, and I think it could be an opportunity to maybe partner with Wave or partner with the recreation department, as somebody said earlier, in their sign up stuff, right? Like, this could actually be an interesting, or the library, if it falls into one of those categories about building community. I have no doubt that this group, and we'll find out more tomorrow and like at our next meeting, but just throwing that out there.
So yeah, if you and Amy want to let us know what they say at Wave about this training, the one that happened in the past, and I will circle back with Quabbin to talk about kind of what their focus, if it's more a general focus or an anti-racism focus. If it turns out that it's more of a general focus, do you want me to look into having a training to kind of go hand in hand or just prior to the active bystander around some of the issues related to white fragility and implicit bias, so that we have a little more of that foundation, and whether it's, not to put anyone on the spot, but whether it's the Jen, you, and oh my God, I'm blanking on her name.
Susan.
Yes.
Sue.
Sue, whether it's something coming from you or someone from outside of our community, having a conversation around that. I'm happy to look into that.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't think people have to take the 10-hour course that we do to be able to attend this bystander training. I would imagine, and I apologize, Maria, I had not looked at their website ahead of time, but I would think that, you know, just based on what I'm reading, that they would give some sort of groundwork in terms of like some of the things that Benny had mentioned, you know, that they would kind of lay out, this is how you assess whether harm is being done or not, and that sort of thing. So I would hope that being an organization that does this in different groups, I'm assuming they've probably done things with mostly white people in the past. So personally, I would probably trust that they could address our concerns, or probably already do that in their off-the-shelf product. But I think if we want to ask them, that we want them to give a little bit of like backstory or set some foundations before we jump into that and set the stage, I think maybe we could just have them amend their like off-the-shelf materials to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. All right. All right. To be continued next month on this then. Okay. Moving on to chair's comments, just wanted to update everyone in terms of the appointment process. So the applications closed on August 19th. We got 10 applicants for 4 vacancies, which is great. That's a phenomenal turnout. The school committee and town council have decided to wait. They're having a joint meeting on September 29th. And so they have decided to wait to discuss this, the appointment process, and maybe retweak it. But they want to have a joint discussion about this on the 29th. So we're going to wait a little longer to get our slate of new members.
So sorry, waiting until the 29th to make appointments, or waiting until the 29th to even talk about interviewing the people who applied? That
I'm not sure of. They're definitely going to talk about the appointment process. That's all the information that I have. So,
have they conducted any interviews yet at all?
No. So yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there are going to be interviews. They want to revisit the process of appointing commissioners, and so they're going to figure that out on the 29th.
This is interesting because we're revisiting the process of bringing people on board as commissioners, and they're going through realizing they need a better process, or a streamlined process, or a different process for even appointing them and choosing them.
Right. So yeah, and depending on how that conversation goes, we might need to go back to some of those slides and make edits, but we won't know until that meeting happens on the 29th. So
Yeah, well, as I said, the script can be constantly evolving.
right, absolutely.
And just to add to what Maria said, it's Chair Santos and Chair Purcell who are trying to work this out together. So the two chairs are working it out. And what was said at our town council meeting yesterday was that it will be discussed. HRC appointments will be discussed at the September 29th meeting.
One other thing that I just wanted to raise is, I know that it's only mid-September, but thinking ahead to the Martin Luther King event, that's like kind of our next major event. I know that there's no events till the end of the calendar year. I don't know in terms of if the town is entertaining like requests to have in-person events in January. But when I'll reach out and see about that, and then we can, starting next month, we can maybe either form a subcommittee or just, if it's still just us, we can start talking about what we want that event to look like if we can't have it in person. I mean, I think it's more than likely that it will not be in person, but I'll double check and see about what it could potentially look like, so we can start making some plans around that.
And until we have more commissioners, it will even be difficult having a subcommittee.
Right, because the subcommittee would pretty much be us. So yeah, we'll start planning that next month, but it's never too early to start thinking about speakers or what you would want, speakers or recognitions that we would like to have at the event. Okay.
Can I back up and ask a question about the appointment process potential changes? Is that being done just by those two? Like, I just feel like we have documented procedures that have been in place, and I just want to make sure that there's some things being somebody or our procedures are being consulted as part of whatever new things that they're putting in place, and it's not just being done in a vacuum.
Yep, I've shared our policies and procedures with them, and I mean, I read through the policies and procedures probably a week ago, and there's nothing specific to interviews. It just says that the town council will appoint 4 and school committee will appoint 4. I don't know that we had written down our formal, that we interview people, we send all of the resumes to those appointing bodies and they make the final decision. But yeah, I have verbally explained that and to them and said that that's been the process since we started 5 years ago. And definitely told them that the people that were, because I wasn't on the commission at the beginning, I've told them that that Amy and Bob Benson are both available to talk about any of the history. If there were questions about what led to the interviews taking place. So yes, I've definitely offered any and all information, and this is what they decided. So.
Okay. Because the interview process is documented. Maybe it wasn't officially part of because we had a process, maybe procedure, not a policy, on the interviewing process.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll take another look. It
was a separate document that another commissioner created that just kind of outlined what we were doing, and we kind of had it in addition, but it was never added into the policies and procedures document.
Yeah, if you want to send that to me, that would be great. Either one of you. Yeah, thank you. All right. Any other questions around that? Okay. So yeah, I'll keep you updated after the meeting on the 29th. So, okay, for matters not anticipated, does anyone have any? Go ahead, Amy.
So sorry, it's just going back to, I did text one of the co-presidents from Wave because I just wanted to make sure I wasn't crazy. And so Wave did not, in fact, host the training. We had a group of members, a group of Wave members that attended the training, and Dan Lieber in the community had put it on. So I misspoke. It was not Wave who hosted it, but our members went, and we were all invited to attend, and I was not able to. So I was wrong on that. So, but I'll get their feedback on how it was tomorrow too.
All right, great, thanks you. Thanks, Amy. Anyone else? Go ahead, Benny.
So I feel bad that I didn't put this on the agenda, but it literally was unanticipated until like an hour before our meeting when I discovered like how time works. And I'm wondering if like, do we want to attempt to do something for Indigenous Peoples Day, which is in a month? It would, so I'm not, anyway, I just want to put it out there because we had talked last year about this potentially being an opportunity for us to do something. And also it's actually less than a month now. And, you know, I think we would have to temper our expectations for what that event, or not even event, or whatever it is, what it would be. But I wanted to put it out there of, like, I didn't want it to just like pass by and we never acknowledged it or talked about it.
Mm-hmm. No, I appreciate that. And I'm sorry, because that totally slipped my mind as well. So yeah, I mean, if we want to do some kind of recognition of it, we can certainly talk about it, but yeah, we need to decide on it now because our next meeting is the 20th, which is the week after. I mean, I think as weak as it is, we can acknowledge it electronically through our Facebook page, and but if people have ideas on the fly right now that they want to suggest, please feel free to throw them out.
I actually talked to the library about this, and they said that, you know, maybe for next year that we could do something together, whether it's book discussions or public forums or whatever. But it just, everyone is so challenged pulling together what they have right now, and we have so little time and so few people. It doesn't seem very realistic. I know I wouldn't be able to help you with this. I wouldn't have any time to help you.
Your the Pride read a children's book of, I thought those were really great. And I think Indigenous like People Day, I think again, there's kind of like a baseline learning for folks. Like every so often I wake up and I'm like, I actually don't know why Massachusetts is called Massachusetts, right? And I was like born and raised here. And that's something that like I should look into. And so I'm wondering if you know, one or two books, and I'd volunteer to kind of do what you guys did for Pride, or anyone here. I mean, it's not a heavy lift, like not doing the whole book giveaway or anything like that. But I think reading a children's story, you know, we're all used to Zoom. Parents can just log on with their kids. But if we could find a book, I feel like there's probably even less written about that. But I think even like finding a reading list that you promote would be really great. And like I said, it's an area I want to explore more. But we could do like a children's book, and then there's a couple of Indigenous people like poetress, like the newest, I forget what they're called, but the U.S. laureate, like poet Joy Harper, is that her name? Joy.
I don't remember her name.
She writes really great poetry. So I feel like that's a lower lift than doing something, but also just like acknowledging it more than a Facebook post. But
Right.
But again, like we're all overcommitted and everyone's tired of Zoom. But I'd be happy to read something, or you know, we could stage a little reading group if we found list of books.
You know, when you said you didn't even know where the name Massachusetts came from, I was thinking how much I would be interested in hearing someone speak about all the different place names in Massachusetts and the stories behind them for a
Yeah.
future program. But I think that would be really interesting because has so much to do with the formation of the Commonwealth.
Marion, I'd be excited to work on that with you if this is the direction that we want to go. I think that's a great idea because that it's like manageable, but also like more, yeah, just like a little bit more content than just a Facebook post.
It's a little bit more interactive, even though it's not interactive, right? But we could just, I don't know. I know for the ones that did it for Pride Month, like, you know, I didn't get to do my part, but I felt like for others, it was reading a book, which isn't such, you know, if you find half an hour, you can do it. It's finding the stuff is the harder part, but there's lists everywhere. So yeah, I'm happy. And I just like Amy Rando, I'm sure would reads books to her kids all the time and would be perfect doing it. I'm sure she's got all the voices down.
Yeah, I would volunteer to read. But I would need someone to give me the book. In fact, I've done reading in the elementary schools in town here when they were doing anti-bullying themed books. So I would volunteer to read, but you know, the children's librarian at the library could probably give you a great short list, almost right off the top of her head.
Yeah. That's a
And
great
that would
idea.
shortcut all that research.
Yeah, do you want me to reach out to the children's librarian? I'm happy to volunteer for that task.
If you want to, I
if
mean,
you could just get a list, like if they have a list already, they're all working remotely, that would be great. And then Benny, I'm happy to like look over the list with you and maybe find a couple. And if people want to read it, like it's one day, right? It's October.
The second Monday in October.
And maybe we could read like,
October 12th.
yeah,
Yeah.
1 or 2 books, depending on what we find and is doable. But I would love history. I mean, every time I think about it, I'm like, I have no idea about that here. And I think we always kind of think of Indigenous people as out west, like. I know. It's a growth space that I need to be educated on.
King Philip's War, that was Massachusetts.
I just posted a link in the chat. There's this woman that I follow who does a lot of anti-racism stuff for kids, and I just Googled and found her, but she's got a whole thing about how to help your kids observe Indigenous Peoples Day, and it looks like there's some like links to different book lists and shows and things like that. So could be a good place to start too.
Great. Thank you. All right. Do we need to vote on whether or not we do the books?
I don't know. Do we need to?
Well, according to our procedures and policies, we don't even have enough people to vote.
No, we do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5 people.
Yeah, we still have a quorum.
It says 6. In the policies and procedures, it says 6.
Well, we have 6.
Voting members of the commission.
Yeah, Faith and Amy and Benny and Jenny and Jen. Benny and Jenny. Benny and Jen. And Sherry and Maria. Yeah.
Okay, so do we have a vote to go ahead and do book readings for Indigenous Peoples Day?
Are we limiting it to just book readings? Or are we saying like a combination of book readings / like educational posts of some sort?
Let's expand it to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then yay. I motion.
Oh, you need a second. Okay.
So for a roll call vote, I will vote yes. And Jen?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Benny?
yes.
Amy?
Yes.
And Faith?
Yes.
Great, thank you. All right. All right, thank you, Benny, for keeping us on
Yeah.
top of this.
No,
All right, any other matters not anticipated? Okay, and I actually added it to the agenda this week so I wouldn't forget after we adjourn. Benny, can you read back the action list for us?
Yes. So it says, Maria, reach out to the town about putting the posters in the kiosks, and send an email connecting the various people who were interested in the mascot issue to one another and to the youth council, and contact the Quabbin, what are they called? Quabbin mediators?
Mediation, yep.
Mediation about the anti-racism content of their training.
Mhm.
And you also volunteered to contact the librarians, but Maria, I'm happy to do that. I feel like you have a lot of things on your list and I don't have things on my list, and I'm, interested in facilitating this book reading thing. So I can take that
Okay.
if you want.
Sure.
And let's see, Amy or Jen, send the interview procedure document to Maria when
I already did.
Whoa.
I know.
That's what you get when you have two screens.
Damn.
Or you can leave it on the action list and just say check.
Yeah, then you just feel accomplished.
I do. I like checking things off.
Yeah. So those are the only things that I had on there. Are there other things that I
And
have?
Sherry and Jen will continue to work on the
On the
onboarding
script and the
yeah.
orientation, and Sherry will continue to work on the signatures, the photoshopping and the signatures of the messaging posters.
Okay.
All right.
Benny, once you reach out to the librarian, are there like after actions that we need to think about or assign, or you want to like coordinate, or you want to just be in charge of the book reading or anything outgoing from us for Indigenous Peoples Day? I don't think you have access to post it to the site, so that
No, exactly.
me, Amy, or Maria need to then coordinate with you.
Well, okay, what's the best way to coordinate? I mean, I don't know. Do we like have to have a meeting? Like,
No,
are we allowed to?
we're just communicating between you and Jen. Either you and Jen, or you and me, or you and Amy. It's fine. We don't need to have a meeting for that. That's not a quorum or a deliberation.
Cool. So I think what I think is happening is, so I'm going to reach out to the librarian at the children's librarians and get maybe some book suggestions. Me and Maureen can think of it over, like make some choices or whatever. And I guess also decide like who's reading them, or invite people, or like just figure out who's going to do it. And then when we have the stuff, we can give it to either, what is it, Jen, Maria, or Amy to post.
Like Sherry Dalton, doesn't she have to make it a public posting? It's a community
Not on our
activity.
Facebook page. Not on our Facebook page. And then we can also send it to Jen McDonald to ask her to post whatever we post on the website as well.
Cool.
So I don't know, do we need like a sub page? We've had like, now we have our Pride Month sub page.
Right.
We need like an Indigenous, do we need to create a sub page for that, or does it just go on our?
I'm hesitant to make a subpage at this point because there won't be a whole lot to put on there, but in future years, as we get more, I think it would be worth doing a subpage on that. So I'll, when we have it, let me know, and I'll reach out to Jen McDonald and see what she thinks would be the best way.
Maybe there could just be like a current events section or something like that she could post on.
There was a town calendar that everything was posted on.
There still is.
It still is. Okay, I didn't know where its home is.
I always find it on the library page. I'm sure you could like create a link to it, but if you go to library calendars, there's library calendar and then there's a community calendar.
Okay.
Anybody could submit something to be put on the community calendar. So we could submit an event, a virtual event, like tune into the Wakefield Facebook page or Human Rights Commission Facebook page on
I think
Monday.
that would be a good idea because you want to get the word out about this, and it's hard nowadays to do that.
I mean, it's hard to do that if we don't have a specific time in mind, unless we say like, we're going to make a post at 3 p.m. on whatever date. But just like tune into our page throughout the day for various informational posts about Indigenous people this day. And we could do that too and put the time frame from like 9 to 5 or something.
And, you know, again, the Avon Street entrance of the library is heavily peopled with people coming and dropping off and picking up books. And if we had some sort of little poster schedule we can put up there, tune in, you know, to some, you know, to some readings, you know, and anyways.
Now
just
we're
the way
adding a
getting
lot
things
more
out.
things.
No, I mean, just I'm trying to
I
think of how
know,
you
yeah.
promote it, because
Yeah.
you want to make sure that if you put all this work in short time, that you get people to participate. I mean, you want to make sure the schools know, so the kids will tune in.
Yeah, a lot more.
Yeah, I can let the library know.
Does the PTA have a way of parents, teachers, is that what they call it in this town, a PTA? That's what they call it. PTO. Do they have a way of blasting out to the parents of children, just, you know, this is something you might be interested in?
Each individual school does. I don't think there's like a centralized PTO.
Right.
I mean, that would be Doug Lyons' email, you know, that would be from the district. But I could certainly connect with like the Woodville PTO that I know. But we'd have to connect with all the different PTOs if we want them each to send out their own thing.
Right. And I'm pretty sure each PTO has its own Facebook page as well, that they could link to our Facebook page from that, but it doesn't, obviously that doesn't include people who aren't on Facebook. So, but yeah, we can see about the PTO presidents sending it out to the schools, to the families.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Wakefield community calendar and it does list, you know, just lists holidays. So it has Columbus Day written down. But we could add an event for Indigenous Peoples Day programming in quotes, but you know, something like that. We could put something on there.
I think they do hot links too on that calendar.
Yeah.
So you can link back to our page.
Yeah,
with the
that's true.
details.
Tune into the page. And if you don't have Facebook, our website has the Facebook feed on it, so you could watch the videos or see whatever we post there as well.
So these readings would be done over Facebook Live? Is that what you're saying?
Either that or pre-recorded that we post as a video on our feed.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it could be a live video if you want to do it that way.
Yeah, if we pre-record it, then I think it's easier to post it both on the website and on the Facebook page.
Right. Then we would have like the MP4 that we could send to Jen McDonald. Yeah.
Okay.
So Benny, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts that we just talked about. Are you comfortable taking point on some of those? If you want me to do the outreach to PTO, like I could probably figure out who the other PTO people are. I know ours, but
yeah, that
could
might
be
be
something
helpful
you
because I really
delegate.
have like zero connection to anything in the schools. So maybe once we have the like info for you
basic
to share,
outline. Yeah.
yeah, that could be helpful.
Great. I'm happy to do that. And I could submit, or Maria, if you wanted to do that, I know you said you'd reached out to the library. But a lot of times I know with Karen, she's like, just submit it through the form. So they might push back on you and just say, just submit what you want to submit on the form and they'll add it to the calendar for us. So we would just need to have like a little blurb to go along with whatever we're thinking. So maybe once Benny has more ideas of what might be happening, you know, and we could be very broad too. We could just say like, we plan to read some children's books and provide some educational information on our Facebook page over the course of the day. Tune in to see or visit our website and leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, especially if we want to start publicizing it sooner, if we leave it broader, then it gives us a little more wiggle room.
If we know we'll do at least one book,
Right.
and at least one, we'll be posting at least one like post or link or something.
Yeah.
So I think we can say we'll do at least 2 things.
Yeah. All right. That sounds good. Okay. Do we need an updated, just the last few action items to add more, or is everyone clear on what they're doing?
What I wrote was, let's see. I'm going to contact the children's librarian. Me and Marion are going to talk about the books and make some choices. Once I'm going to write some kind of like general blurb to get the word out, and I'll send that to Jen, who can send it to the PTO people. And who am I doing the thing on the calendar?
On the
I can
library?
do the calendar. I can do the library calendar. Once you send the blurb, I can do it both PTO and the library calendar.
Okay.
But it sounds like if we want to create some sort of flyer poster, I don't know, Sherry, do you want to do that, or do we
Well,
think we have the capacity to make a flyer?
you know what my issue is.
Yeah.
I have to talk to
All
Maria
right.
about it, so I'm not. I can't commit. Maria, after this call is over, I have to ask you to just call me on my home phone
Sure.
for a personal call.
Yep.
So I think I don't know if we can come up with like a little flyer to post on the library. I think
Depends
it's not
on-
really a big
depends on
event.
when
It's
you-
sort of like online programming. So
Depend on when you get it to me, I might be able to do it, because I certainly, have the graphic programs to do it. But it would have to be pretty quick, because I have
Yeah.
some things coming up.
I think if we just get a blurb of information to the library, I think that should be
Yeah.
okay. Let's not overextend ourselves.
yeah,
Okay.
it's quick.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mm.
All right.
Okay.
So, all right. Do I have anything else from anyone? All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. And a second.
Second.
All right, Sherry. And for a roll call vote, I vote yes. Jen, go ahead.
Yes.
Sherry,
Yes.
Benny,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
and Faith.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night.
Maria, do you have that
Thank
number,
you.
or do you need it just?
I have it. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
I
Promise will be fast.
Okay. Have a good
Okay.
night.